Anytime you're adding two numbers with opposite signs, you apply the rule of signs or sign for opposite signs. And there are a few steps to take. There are three. The first one is identify. Let me write that a little bit better. Write the word identify. Identify the absolute values. Absolute values. So what is an absolute value? An absolute value will look something like this. You have two vertical lines, and then you have like some number inside of it. Let me write this on the left side of the screen underneath the problem. And let's use the -12 for the number. So let's say we want to find the absolute value, which is what we need to do, -12. This -12, it is just a number. It is just a number. It is not the absolute value. The two vertical lines want us to find the absolute value of this number, -12. So the absolute value of this number, -12, will tell us the distance, or the distance away from 0. This -12 will tell its distance away from 0. So what I mean by that is, let me go ahead and draw the number line. And then 0, 5, 10, and somewhere here 12. We are 12 units away from 0. That is your absolute value, 12. 12 units away from 0. And 12 will always be positive because we're looking at the distance away from 0. Now let's look for the absolute value of 6. Mentally, we know it's 6 units away from 0. So let's just write it down. The absolute value of this number, -6, is 6. Easy. Number 2, subtract both of them from larger minus smaller equals. Subtract them, or subtract both. So larger minus smaller equals, we're looking at the absolute values. So the larger absolute value is this 12, and the smaller is 6. So the answer is 6. You take 6 away from 12, gives you 6. The third step is to take the sign of the original number that gave you the larger absolute value. So we are looking at 12 being the larger absolute value, and then the original number is this -12. And we're going to take that sign and give it to our answer, 6. And so the answer is -6. And I'll write that for the third step. Third step, take from, take sign from original number that gave you larger absolute value. Easy. Let's do a couple problems for practice. Let's say negative 20 plus 15. Go ahead and pause the video, try to solve it yourself, and then press play to check your answer. Okay, I am looking at two numbers, negative 20, positive 15. We are adding two numbers with opposite signs, so we have to use the rule of sign and follow those three steps. Find or identify the absolute values, subtract them from larger to smaller, and then take away the sign from the original number that gave us the larger absolute value. So let's go ahead and start with the absolute value. So we have absolute value negative 20. So we need to find the absolute value of this number, negative 20, which is 20. So we're 20 units away from 0. And then the absolute value of the number 15, we are 15 units away from 0. And then the second step is to subtract larger minus smaller. 20 is bigger than 15. So 20 minus 15. So 20 take away 15. That's 5. And then we need to take away take the sign from the original number that gave us the larger absolute value, which is 20. So take this negative, give it to the 5, and the answer is negative 5. Easy. Let's do another problem. Let's say negative 5 plus 15 equals. Go ahead and pause the video, try to solve it yourself, and then press play to check your answer. Okay, we are adding two numbers with opposite signs. So mentally, think about the absolute value. So we are 5 units away from 0. 5 units away from 0. So the absolute value is 5. And then we are 15 units away from 0. So the absolute value is 15. And then we need to subtract larger minus smaller. 15 is larger, so 15 minus 5. So 15 take away 5 is 10. And then we look at the sign from the original number that gave us the larger absolute value, which is 15. There is an invisible positive sign there. We'll take that positive sign, give it to the 10, and the answer is positive 10. That is your answer. Let's try another problem. Let's say let's say 9 plus negative 7. Go ahead and pause the video, try to solve yourself, and then press play to check your answer. Okay, so I'm looking at two numbers with opposite signs, and we're adding both numbers. We apply the rule with the identifying the absolute value, subtract, and then take away the sign of the original number that gave you the larger absolute value. So 9 is the absolute value. and 7 is the absolute value. And we subtract both. 9 minus 7 from bigger to smaller. 9 minus 7 is 2. And then we take the sign from the original number that gave us the larger absolute value and give it to the 2. And so the answer is positive 2. Easy. Okay, one more problem for practice. Let's say -8 plus 10, positive 10. Go ahead and pause the video, try to solve it yourself, and then press play to check your answer. Okay, I'm adding two numbers with opposite signs. Mentally, look for the absolute value for both. So the absolute value of -8 is 8. The absolute value of 10, the number 10 is 10. And then we subtract large to small. 10 minus 8. So 10, take away 8. That gives you 2. And then we take the sign from the original number that gave us the larger absolute value. So take this positive, give it to the 2, and so your answer is 2. And there you go.